Hi, welcome back to the 9th Annual Online ADHD Awareness Expo. We're Melissa Orlov and George Orlov, and in just a moment we're going to be talking about the top 3 things you need to know about an ADHD impacted relationship. But first, let me remind you to stop by the online exhibit hall and sign up for the free virtual goodie bag filled with surprises from the ADHD awareness speakers and sponsors. So you can find me, if you want, on my website, which is www.adhdmarriage.com. For a second, I lost it there. And contact me there through the contact form. You can also find a lot of really good information there for adults with ADHD and their partners and how it impacts things. So I want to introduce my husband, George, who has never been on a video before. This is the first time ever, and I really appreciate your coming on. And we're going to be together telling you what we think the most important things are that you should both understand about ADHD and its impact. We thought it'd be nice to have the ADHD partner, which is him, and the non-ADHD partner, which is me, talk about things. Okay, so let's start out with number 1, and I'll hand it over to you.
Well, I think besides drinking lots of coffee, one of the things one needs to know is how one's behavior impacts their partner. One of the things that ADHD partners don't realize is the extent and depth to which the way they act and the way they treat their spouse and the way they are in their universe impacts their partners. And
vice versa. So also, non-ADHD partners, like I never really thought much about how my frustration, I felt the frustration, I expressed the frustration, and I didn't really think about how it impacted you either until such time as you said, wow, you don't really even like me, do you? At which point I started going, wait, okay. So being aware of that, the bottom line is that your behaviors that you're expressing, the frustration or the anger or the ADHD symptomatic behaviors, impact your partner much more than you think they do.
Yep, and one of the challenges is that you probably don't believe your partner in the early stages when you really don't understand how ADHD impacts you. And so you believe that your partner is always a nag and she's telling you exactly what to do and how to do it and treats you like a child.
I never did that. Come on.
Never. And my wife kept telling me I'm ignoring her and I don't pay enough attention to her. And of course I loved her, and of course I was paying attention to her. I was just paying attention to a few other things at the same time.
Pretty much.
And so we really didn't have a common understanding of what our actions, and more importantly than our actions, we mistook the intent of our partner for something else, for something more nefarious, and therefore we got a little bit angry at each other.
Yeah, this is true. Well, so people always ask me, so what should I do if I say, okay, so my behavior is impacting my partner much more than I originally had thought. Let me just sort of say, okay, I'll believe you on that. What do I do? And one of the things I think is to actually believe what your partner is saying, even if it's offensive to you or makes you feel defensive, that you need to believe it. When he was saying, look, you're really treating me abysmally, or stop berating me, or stop telling me what to do, rather than sort of stand up and say, well, I'm telling you what to do because you never do it on your own, I needed to back away and say, well, is it really my job to tell another adult what to do? Let's actually talk about it. So one of the things is to believe your partner, sort of suspend your disbelief and listen to what they're saying, even if it feels uncomfortable to do that. What other things?
I think also when you're in the heat of that discussion period, one doesn't really slow down enough because you're jumping to the conclusions or you're more defending yourself. One doesn't slow down enough and actually listen to what your partner is saying and take it for what they're saying and why,
right.
Rather than you're usually misinterpreting it. You're putting emotions onto it that you perceive that's to be their emotion. And so I think slowing down and spending some time and actually listening and understanding your partner, even though you may not believe it at first or you can't believe it at first, sit down and really explore what they're saying to you.
Right. For some people, turning it around helps. You know, if I felt that way, what would it feel like? How would I be responding? All right. So that's one. So the first tip or idea is that your behavior is most likely impacting your partner much more than you think it is impacting your partner. A tendency is to blame our partners for the problems, and instead of doing that, you should look to yourself and look to your own behavior and understand whether you are the ADHD partner or the non-ADHD partner, that it is, in fact, your behavior makes a difference. So that's number one. Okay, so what was the next one?
Developing some new behaviors.
Yeah.
Treating your ADHD first of all, making sure that you understand what it is, why it is, how you can get it under control.
I'm smiling at that one, by the way. I like that as an idea. You like that as an idea too, though. Yeah. Your life is a lot better now that you're treating your ADD.
And then getting some new behaviors. I mean, they're like habits that you can develop. Just little things like if your partner thinks you're not paying enough attention to her, rather than saying, I'm paying plenty of attention to you, slow down and spend some time and pay attention to them in the manner in which they wish to be attended to.
So I bet that if I asked you, you could say all sorts of things that were behaviors that you wanted me to change. You could go ahead and say a few of those things. Look, he's gearing right up now.
Not on PG-rated videos.
Well, I can name a few. I used to nag you mercilessly to get things done. And I was often very mean to you, actually, because I was so frustrated and so unhappy and feeling so undervalued and that you really weren't interested in me. And so I vented my frustration in many days. I mean, I don't think that much of the time you felt like I really cared about you at all.
Yeah, being very careful about the frustration part. In ADHD, ADHD partners can easily get frustrated by things, and the way it manifests itself, other people interpret to be anger. And when they're confronted with the fact that, why are you so angry, or why do you have these anger attacks, many times the ADHD partner says, I'm not angry. I was just a little frustrated. I wasn't angry at you, I was just frustrated. And so if the partner mistakes that rightfully for anger, then all sorts of motives can be construed, and you'll really go into a downward spiral in your relationship.
Well, I mean, it's an interesting point to be thinking about the difference between frustration and anger, because they do seem to the person who's on the receiving end to be very similar. They feel similar. They feel like you're being attacked. And the frustration is often repetitive behaviors, and maybe the anger comes later. But digging under that, maybe with professional help or by slowing down and talking with each other more openly. I teach something in some of my seminars called conflict intimacy, which is a very useful way of speaking to each other so that that whatever your partner says is true, and you believe it and you consider it and you ask questions and you think about it, and it helps a lot. We've actually been able to learn that for the most part. Every once in a while we don't apply it, but you know, we're human too. So okay, so that's number 2 then, which is make it a point to develop new behaviors. And there are lots of different ways to do this. Some of them are clinical, like cognitive behavioral therapy, where you learn to think differently about things. I teach some things in my seminars like setting up verbal cues for both partners to use when they get into difficult situations. Sometimes it's as simple as having chore meetings so that everybody's on the same page or whatever, and very much focusing on making sure that the anger and the frustration are understood and gotten at. So now he's getting bored. So we'll go on to the third thing. All right, so the third thing that we came up with that you need to know about is
do something together that you both love to do. And while that may be hard at first to figure out, especially when you're raising young kids or you're in the midst of these battles, finding something that you enjoy doing together is probably the last thing on your list that you actually have any interest in doing. But
not me. No, of course.
But if you find something that you can do together and you enjoy together and you both enjoy together, it gives you some time to bond and heal and rebuild your relationship. It's the basis upon which you can start rebuilding. It's
a good thing to remember that you can have fun with this person that you've been fighting with, and there are even little things. We did one thing when our son was in orchestra practice. We went down to Boston and took 3 hours in the afternoon while he was rehearsing, and we just had a sort of a spontaneous date. We set aside the 3 hours, so we always knew we had it. But then we decided the day of, actually the moment of, what it was we were going to do that day. And that was fun. We used to really enjoy doing that, and it was just sort of whatever felt. So it was planned, so it was good for me, and it was spontaneous, so it was good for him, and actually both of us, and that was fun. And we also we have a hobby that we share. We do a lot of bike riding together, which has been very fun.
Yep, it started out a little hard. Don't do this. I had a passion and a love for biking all my life, and I tried to, how should we say, not force it on you, but I tried to encourage you a little strongly.
Yes, you did. You will do this.
And for the first decade or two, you resisted pretty strongly.
Well, okay, so here's the psychology of this, right? So he was trying to get me to do this, and my mindset was, you never do anything for me, and it's all about me having to do stuff for you, and this is yet another thing I'm supposed to do for you. So it really grated me the wrong way, so I sort of fought against it. But what that ends up doing is sort of cutting off your nose to spite your face, actually, because we have a great time when we go out biking. And so after a while, I decided that was the wrong approach, and so I opened up to it, and he showed me how to be a good bike rider, and we have a great time, and it always is a good reset. I mean, if things are feeling a little bit funky, we can go out for a bike ride and have a great time.
Yep.
So,
I even pretended to pick up golf off of her because she played golf, and I pretended.
Really, more accurately, my father plays golf, and we did that as a family thing.
Good thing we settled on cycling, by the way.
Okay, so the bottom line on all of this is that you can turn your relationship around. You just need the right information. You really do need to know, and so does your therapist if you're working with a therapist, about how ADHD impacts your relationship. And it isn't just about the ADHD. It is very much about ADHD symptomatic behaviors, how they can be misinterpreted, how they sit in the relationship, and also about responses to that ADHD. So all of that is important. Both of you are playing a role. But with the right help, you can, in fact, turn things around. I don't know. Can you tell? We did. Anyway, all right. So thanks very much for taking time to watch my video. And I want to remind you that you can find me, not George. George is behind the scenes on all of this, except for this video. But you can contact me through the website. It's ADHDmarriage.com. There is a contact form there. There's a lot of information, including a free treatment ebook that you can download that talks about how to optimize treatment for adults impacted by ADHD. And that has been vetted by a whole bunch of doctors and folks who really know their stuff. So it's good, solid information that you can trust. I also have a seminar that I give for couples that is a good overview, has helped a lot of couples, and I'm now also giving a seminar on anger. So lots of different resources, books, all sorts of things. I hope you'll come join in. And also remember to stop by the online exhibit hall for the 9th Annual Online ADHD Awareness Expo and sign up for your free goodie bag if you would like to do that or haven't done it already. And we will say goodbye.